When we left off, you were talking about growing up in a home that
was open to so many people, and there were so many children, and there were visitors coming all the time. And that sounds like a very good environment to be in, because as a child, you learn quite a lot, right? You learn how to be around other people. You learn how to share. You learn how to be selfless. You learn how to look out for other people and stuff. So then at some point, you had to get into boarding school. And this was in primary school, right? Now, as a mother who is raising a 10-year-old who joined boarding school at 9, and someone who went to boarding school at 10, I find that sometimes we struggle quite a bit as parents, because there's only so much we can give our children when they're under our roofs and in our care. We will give them the family values. We'll teach them the things that are important, but there is something that boarding school gives the children that we can't. It's basically how to live in the world when we're not there. But it's a struggle for a lot of parents. It's a struggle because there's a part of us that wants to protect our children from what we don't know. You went through boarding school. You've been running a program that is raising young girls and boys through the Nabagereka, Chisaka Teacher Nabagereka. What would you say to a parent who's torn between these two worlds? I want to protect my child from this big bad world that I don't even know about, but I also want them to go and experience life. For example, in a boarding school, what would you say to them?
You know, parenting is one of the most difficult things, I think. It's not an easy thing at all. And I don't even know if there's that one right way of doing it. Like you said, it's a good thing that one has to look up to other people who have gone through it to see, or maybe they could learn something. But it's very difficult. And especially when you talk about parenting these days, because you're parenting with the whole world. It's not just you telling the child that the right and wrong, but then you have the whole global village that, you know, where they're learning a lot of different things that you don't have any control of. And the truth actually is that we cannot really protect them from the world, because, you know, it's just like saying you protect yourself from your own house. You know, the kids have to go out there, they will have to go in the world. So I think for me, the best thing with my little experience would be to give them the right tools in terms of for them to know, you know, what to do. And this is, I think, where our own camp comes in, which we started in 2006, Kabaka Teacher Nabagereka. One of the reasons actually was exactly that, you know, how do you, because parents these days don't really have time. They don't have time to spend with their children. And so the purpose of the Kabaka is really to instill the positive cultural values, as well as empowering the kids with ideas and skills that will enable them to navigate through the challenges of this world, you know, and emphasizing good cultural values, because they do build character. They build strong families where people, you know, the families stay together, work together. They bring up unity within the family. And when a child is exposed to such an environment, they tend to also do the same when they go out of the home. We use the concept of Ubuntu Bulam, and Ubuntu, this is really referring to the human values that we should all aspire to if we're to live with each other peacefully. And some of those values are, you know, they're values whether you're traditional or you're modern. It's something that's needed, so it's not outdated. Although we do use the terminology Ubuntu, you are, or I am because you are, and vice versa. And some of these are, you know, integrity, transparency, a sense of shame, civility, humility. Those are things that if a child upholds those values from a young age, then you'd expect them to be able to navigate through the world much easier, to be more productive citizens when they do grow up. Another thing that we emphasize on is the skills, exposing them to different skills. There are a lot of different things that in our years we used to do, but kids are not really, they're more focused on the academics, and they're not really. So in Itsakati, we do expose them to, for example, those practical activities within sports. Also, agriculture, we want them to learn how to garden, how to rear chicken or goats, things like that. Pottery, baking, arts and crafts, artwork, fine art, and things like that. And you'll be amazed that these kids, because we actually, the children that are attending right now are from between the ages of 6 and 18, but we could have gone lower or even higher, but that's the age that we are concentrating on now. So some of them take very keen interest in these things, and when they go back home, especially, for example, those who are in S4 or S6, they tend to take these up, and then they start doing their little work, whether it's in gardening or pottery or whatever it is, and then earn some money. And there's a young boy, 9 years old, who really amazed us. When he came, his interest was to learn how to do pottery. And when he did it, when he went back home and did some, made some pots, sold them, and that money he used it to pay school fees for other kids.
At 9?
At 9 years old, So he said that he felt there was a need that these kids, their parents didn't have money to put them through school, or they are staying home, something like that. And so for me that was, and he said he actually helped 5 children. So here you are supporting one child, and the impact really is quite huge. But one of the other key things is the spiritual development that you need to expose the children to. When they come, they really come from different backgrounds. We do not encourage them to be in one religion or the other, but the most important thing is for them to have that the spiritual development, to give them that compass to be able to direct them, for them to have discernment, and that kind of thing. So I think really is to equip the child with the right tools to help them, because they're going to leave you. They're not always going to be underneath your wings. You have to let them go. But when you let them go in the world, they should be able to, when they get there, they'll be able to know what's right, what's wrong. You don't have to always worry about them.
That's amazing. We used to have an inside joke with my friends. If someone did something that was off, we'd actually say, it would be nice if there was a Itsakate for older people, so that you can catch up on.
And Itsakate could be in everybody's home. That's what I'm saying. It's not, okay, we have
but
to
you can't give what you don't have. You honestly cannot give what you don't have. And a lot of people, I feel like some people are raising children, but they didn't get that, and which is what makes your program quite profound. But I'd like to dig into the book. So as I read the book, and this is a spoiler alert to those of you who haven't read the book yet, as I read the book, right from your birth and the mysterious dove, that just showed up, the separation from your parents, obviously, as a child, your partial education in Uganda, and then the move to the US at some point for college, and the opportunities that basically opened up for you over a span of time, and the relationships that you built over the years, which relationships are evidenced in the book by the different sides of your story that your friends share, and the people that you met. And it just felt like everything was working together for your good. I think there's a scripture that actually says that. So everything was working to bring you to a certain moment in your life, to prepare you for something that was already perhaps predestined. I don't know if that's how you felt about it. And Steve Jobs, there's one of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs is that the dots always connect backwards. When you look back at your life, ma'am, was there a time that you could have seen that these dots were connected somewhere to where you're at right now? And I'd just like us to talk a little bit about this, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll get back into it. So just, was there any moment?
Yes, well, I don't know. The dots connect, like you said, but I think I knowingly really God was taking me through this. Somehow I feel that our destiny is predetermined, and we do things we don't know as we move, but then when we look back we say, oh, you know, I actually went there, I went through this, I was able to do this and this and that. And how did I do it? How did I get where I am today? For me, I truly believe that God was guiding me through. Whether or not that dove that you just talked about had some kind of significance, I think it did have significance, very spiritual significance, which I'm finding out now more so than before, because even my mom told me about it in these later years, not way back, when she was being interviewed for this book. You know, she said it. But I think, yes, I think God is really has been guiding me through it all, and the dots connecting, I guess. Somehow, if I had stayed in the United Kingdom and was adopted, I wouldn't have grown up with my parents. My life would have been different, of course. How different, I don't know. If I stayed in Uganda and I didn't go to the US, maybe also that would have been different. So there's always a way that God's leading us to do, and we end up where we end up because of his direction and all, you know, especially if you do trust and believe in him.
And I suppose the dots always do connect backwards, because you can only think about it in hindsight.
Yes, you think about it in hindsight, you actually do.
And we'll take another break and be right back.